And here to face off, Democratic strategist Richard Goodstein and Republican strategist Alex Conant, the former Republican National Committee's national press secretary. Both of you, thanks so much for being here. Richard, let me start off with you, because we heard the contrast there, the president saying, complimenting Senator Grassley, and then he didn't use the language death panels as others, including Sarah Palin, have used, but he said fear, and that these people who were standing so close to him should be worried about these consultations. What do we make of what's happening between Grassley, the few others, and on that bipartisan group and the president?
Well, I give the president high marks, and I think the public does too, for turning the other cheek. Senator Grassley knows better. I mean, what Republicans and Democrats know is that doing nothing means that health care costs will continue to double, and Americans will continue to lose health care, and problems like pre-existing conditions and so forth will totally mess up how things happen in the workplace. That said, the public wants bipartisanship. That's in part why President Obama got elected. They give him high marks. They see him reaching out in a way that they don't see Republicans doing that. And I think, frankly, as happened with the stimulus earlier this year, so long as the president sincerely tries to accommodate Republican requests up to a point, right, and the public understands that he's sincere in doing that, I think so long as he is seen as being genuine, that probably is enough. That said, I don't think he's going to let perfection be the enemy of the good. I think he wants something, because the alternative is really not acceptable to anybody.
Alex, I want to play what a Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski had to say about all of this talk of death panels. Specifically, she was talking about Sarah Palin. Let's play that.
It does us no good to incite fear in people by saying that, you know, there's these end-of-life provisions, these death panels. I'm so, quite honestly, I'm so offended at that terminology, because it absolutely isn't. There is no reason to gin up fear in the American public by saying things that are not included in the bill.
Alex, which Republicans are right? Those who continue the death penalty, or the death panel, I should say, conversation, or like Mrs. Murkowski, who says it's disgusting, basically?
Well, I think Senator Murkowski is right that it doesn't do anybody much good going out and trying to intentionally scare people with misleading information. But the fact of the matter is that that's part of what the White House is doing. I mean, people are scared right now because they're afraid that with Obamacare they're going to lose their doctor, they're going to lose their private insurance. And the White House says that's not true. But if you ask experts, it is true. And getting back to the earlier point about whether or not the president should work with Republicans in New Hampshire.
Wait a second, back up. Which experts are you talking about? Are you talking about that one group that was funded by the insurance industry that Republicans like to cite? Who are you talking about? Amongst others.
Oh, yes, amongst others.
Okay, so we're talking about experts funded by the insurance industry. Let's just be clear.
If there's a government plan, it'll be tougher for private insurance companies to compete with a government plan that has the full faith and credit of the U.S. government supporting it. I think that's common sense. But getting back to the earlier point about bipartisanship, at that same event from New Hampshire yesterday that you played the clip from, the president said that he was willing to go it alone without Republican support. That's not a very open-ended request for Republicans to sit down at the table. And Republicans have been offering a lot of ideas about how to fix America's broken health care system, and the White House isn't listening.
Richard,
let's follow up right there. You make a great point. But can you name one concession that goes against Republican orthodoxy, where the Republicans have said, you know what, we'll give up this issue in exchange for you giving up that issue? Just name one issue that Republicans have given up as part of this discussion.
We haven't been invited to the negotiating table yet. We haven't even had an opportunity to get that far yet.
160 amendments on the Republican Health Committee. I mean, I don't know how you can say Republicans are not involved when there are 160 amendments that are part of that provision that made it out of that committee.
When you've got Grassley as a Republican, and all separate from the comments he made, he has been a part of this bipartisan group, and doesn't he count as a Republican?
Well, but that's my point. The White House is saying we may go our own way with this. We may not listen to Republicans' ideas or do something that's going to be bipartisan at the end.
Grassley, There are at least 4.
Yeah, there's a small group of Republicans. There's a small group of Republicans talking to a small group of Democrats in the Senate. The White House is not reaching out to Republicans, asking for their ideas and taking them seriously, and that's unfortunate.
Well, I'm not sure that's true.
Richard,
here's the bottom line. Richard, at a certain point, the Democrats have to say, when is it worth it to continue trying to have these discussions with the Republicans, which the Republicans have made it absolutely clear they don't want any public option of any kind. At what point do the Democrats say, you know what, we've tried in good faith to do these negotiations. It doesn't serve our interests anymore. We've got the votes. We'll do it alone. When do the Democrats reach that point?
Well, again, if you're asking kind of when in the calendar, my guess is it will be sometime in September or perhaps as late as early October. And I think when that happens kind of politically is when they really tease out and say, okay, look, this is our final proposal. Here's the basis for our belief that this proposal will do the trick in terms of costs and preventive medicine and so forth. And if they still get kind of met with, well, we want the free market to control everything, the free market is what's led to these tripling of health care costs and to people dreading getting sick for fear that, again, a pre-existing condition will keep them from ever switching jobs, or if they lose their job, that their kid won't get any health care. So I think, David, to your point, it happens when, again, it's happened with the stimulus. We've kind of seen a dry run of this, that you get up to a point and say, look, the Republican orthodoxy didn't work under Bush on economics. Here's what we're going to do. And we think on health care, it hasn't worked for a long time. This is what we think is going to work, and the alternative is not acceptable.
So far, the Democrats have been debating Democrats. The reason the House of Representatives didn't pass a health care bill before they went on recess, as the president demanded that they do, was because conservative and moderate Democrats had big issues with what Nancy Pelosi was trying to drive through the House of Representatives. This so far has not been a Republican effort to stop it because they haven't reached out to the Republicans. They've been debating amongst themselves, and they can't even agree.
Well, let me tell you where the debate hasn't gone. Again, first of all, as David and Tamron pointed out, between Ensley, Snowe, and Grassley, three pretty involved senators working with Baucus and Conrad, for example, in the Democratic Finance Committee. I mean, there's been real engagement there. So I think to say that there hasn't been outreach to Republicans, frankly, just is belied by pick up any newspaper over the past several weeks. And again, I think what they're met with by the leadership.
On the front end of the process, you have Democrats debating Democrats in the House of Representatives not working with Republicans, and on the back end of the process, you're going to have
in the House, because the Republicans came up with their own plan that
didn't support.
That's right, Alex, because in the House, the Republicans came up with their own plan and had no plan on how to pay for their own plan. So there you have the Democrats at least trying to figure out how can we be fiscally responsible, and the Republicans adding nothing to that.
The CBO says the Democrats' plan creates a huge deficit.
Okay. Richard,
Alex. No, they came up with a plan about how to tax the wealthiest 1% of Americans, but Republicans would not even come up with a plan for how to pay for their own plan. But in any case, that's a discussion for another day.
We have plenty of time to continue to discuss it. Richard, Alex, we're going to have to let you go. Thank you both.
Thanks.
I hate to interrupt you in that way.
Thanks, David.
We got it.
Sure.
I wish we could continue.